Well, hello and welcome to Tea Talk. I'm Lady O, your host, and I am so happy to have a very special young lady with me today that's going to speak about her life's journey, how the choices that you make propel you into directions, whether you want to go there or not, your choices will lead you there. And over her life, she has been very focused on choices and used the people in her life to help her. So she's going to talk to you parents about how what her parents and grandparents did that really impacted her life and helped her stay on the course. We all have a destiny that we want to reach, and we know that your choices have consequences. So she's going to talk to us personally about how to pivot from the choices we've made as an adult to get to where we would like to be, and also how we as adults can help to put our hands on uh, the children that are looking up to us, whether it's our own children, children in the and you've got it into their lives, and that's what she has done. So she has her own son that she is using this on, and she works in the school system as a professional. She was a counselor for many years, and now she is an assistant principal. So she can give you a whole lot of tidbits on what to do yourself to get your how she got where she is now and how to help your children. So go ahead and call your friends and tell them, hey, you know, you got children, you got cousins, nieces, nephews that we all need to help get that child back on track because the world is reaching for our children and they're pulling at them. And if we don't pull back on our children, the world is going to have them. So you're going to learn today how to pull, how to push, and how to support the people in your life as well as your own self. So, would you all help me welcome this young lady who is a part of the Tea Talk Club team? And so I want to just thank her for all she does for that. Well, help me welcome her today as our guest, Miss Tracy Walker. Hello, Miss Tracy.
Hello. Good morning, Lady O. I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Well, we want to get to know you. We know you work and helping us to get to know everybody else. But today and this year, guys, I'm going to be focusing up on people. Do you realize that people sitting right next to you may have the key to your success? They may have the answer to your question, but we don't talk enough. We don't really know the person. We don't know our neighbors. We don't know our church members. And so I want to get to know my team better this year. So I'm going to be interviewing them all once so you can know who's behind the scenes and get her to let you know she has a lot to offer. And we're going to glean from her today and we're going to pull on what God has put in her life to bring her to this point of where she is now. So, Tracy, why don't you start by telling us what you do now, and then we'll kind of go back to the beginning on how you got here.
Right now I am an assistant principal, eighth grade assistant principal in Spring ISD. This is my second year as an assistant principal, and the interesting thing about this was this was not I did not intend to do this. My intentions were not to be an assistant principal. It's something that I spend a lot of time praying and asking God, what is my next? What do you want me to do? And where can I have the most impact? And this job is something that it just happened. I know people say that, but it really did. The wheels started turning and it just kind of it was here. It was right in my face. So I'm like, okay,
And
God.
that's what God does. When He wants you to go a certain way, it's like at that rodeo where the cows and the horses are coming through, they close the gate so you can't get that way, but then they open another gate, so you have to go that way, and that's the best way that for you, and that's where God wanted you.
Right. And I tell you what, the first year was like, oh my, God, are you sure you want me to do this? But as I began to build those relationships with my students and families and staff, it became clear to me, this is where I want you. This is where I need you right now. I don't know what my next is, but I know right now this is where I need you. I need you here supporting these students at this time,
Right,
supporting the staff at this time.
right.
And I've seen God's work in it. I've actually said, this is God. This is God. I see God.
Definitely God. And the scripture that comes to mind for me, because I've had those moments too where I'm like, this is not what I had in mind, God. But the scripture that says, I know the plans I have for you. And they're plans to give you a healthy outcome, a happy ending. So that says to me that those plans are different. It's not like here's the plan and that's the one you're going to be with until you die. No, I know the plans I have for you. There are seasons and there are steps, and it's like a journey. And so every journey you're supposed to learn, I believe, something that equips you for the next one. So whatever your next is in your life, wherever you are now, you're supposed to be learning and gleaning and preparing for whenever God shuts that door and opens the other one over here. That everything that you were supposed to learn in that season, you got it. Now you're ready to go to the next. I love it.
Yeah. And the one of the things I kept going back to is like, God, I enjoy counseling. I'm comfortable with counseling. I
Right,
know it. I can do it in my sleep.
right.
But the way God works is, He's constantly taking us out of our comfort zone.
There you go. There you go. He's always that nest, He's kicking you out of the nest because the little birds, if you never kick them out, the mother bird doesn't kick them out, they never learn to fly.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
are not supposed to be comfortable for the rest of our lives. There's always going to be some kind of discomfort, especially if God has something else for you. I know when I was a counselor in Sci Fair, I thought I would be there for quite some time. And then God started making it where what was natural. Like I said, I just loved it. It was natural. I could do it with my eyes closed. I was still a counselor, but God said, your season here is up.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't make that move. So he started making things happen, making it difficult. And he pushed me, literally pushed me out of that nest. And I'm so glad he did.
Right. And again, it is uncomfortable. It hurts. I remember my first month or so when I got into the job, I had a long drive. I'm driving from Cypress to Spring every day.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say cry, but I was like, did I make the right decision? God, why do you have
Yeah.
me doing this? I'm driving, I'm getting home late, I'm tired.
Right.
And it's like, there's a reason in this. You
Yeah.
can't look at the now, you gotta look at the bigger picture of it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's where
You
he
got to
led
trust
me.
God that He
Right,
knows the
right.
plans. See, that's the scripture. He knows the plan. I don't know what you're doing, God. This is not comfortable. This is not where I want to be. And this is certainly not where I thought I would be. And when I look back over my life, I never, ever wanted to be a pastor's wife. I never. I told my husband when he asked me to marry him, I said, now you're not going to be a preacher or a pastor or anything, are you? He said, oh no. I said, well, okay, I'll marry you. And then what does he do? When God keeps putting it on him, he becomes a pastor. And guess where I am? A pastor's wife. And so, it's
Yeah.
all good, but it's not what I planned.
Yeah. And now I look at it from a totally different lens, is that everything that I've done or been through is preparing me for something. I don't know
Right,
what that something is, but he's preparing me for that.
right.
Even
And
this
so,
position. And I don't know how long I'll do this. I don't, but I
you
know
know
it's
what? Yeah,
preparing me for something.
until God says next.
Hmm.
Let's go back and look at your life as a little girl. How was the first decade of your life? What was that like? Do you have hindsight? You see now some
Um,
things that happened to you that were preparing you for this time?
One of the highlights of I was a 70s baby. So I grew up in the
Okay,
70s.
70s. All right. Is that
Oh
disco?
yeah.
I
That
think that's the
disco.
disco fever.
I
Oh,
grew up
that's a
in the
wild
70s.
period.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that was an interesting period. And We went through this. I was born in Dallas. I spent a lot of time though. I claim Louisiana because every summer, that's where we were the whole summer, 3 months.
Right. That's
And we were
right.
there the whole summer.
Drop those
And I
kids
want
in
to talk,
Louisiana.
yeah, and I want to talk a lot about that part because that was really that was the shaping. That was when I really started to see a lot of things as a child, my life versus what I would see in my friends, which was very different. But 70s child, we started out in North Dallas area. And then my parents ended up moving to the southern sector of Dallas. So we grew up in Oak Cliff.
Ooh.
And I was kind of shell shocked because I went from basically a white community
I was
to
gonna say North is the bougie part.
the Black
We lived
community.
in East Dallas and West Dallas and South Dallas, but North Dallas was not, most Black people did not live there. Okay, so
So,
I see where you coming from the beginning.
yeah, so I was kind of like, woo, this is different. But I loved it. I loved it because when I went to school, everybody looked like me.
Yep, yep,
My teachers looked like me.
yep,
And there was a level of care. It's like I'm your teacher,
yeah. I'm your
but I'm
mama.
your mama too.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there was a care there. I'm teaching you, but I care about you. And that's back in the day when teachers could still spank your butt.
yep, and they did.
And they did it. So those teachers were very pivotal in my life because back in the day, though, that time, teachers stayed in teaching. They stayed at the same school.
Yes.
Many of them retired from that school. They were there 30, 40 years.
Well, you know what? One of the things about the 70s with the teachers, because Black teachers could not teach in white schools. We were at that pivotal integration thing,
Mhm.
and so we were coming out of the 60s where you would not be, a Black teacher could never be in a Black school, and Black kids couldn't be in white school. So Black teachers and students all were at Black schools, all Black schools. Then in integration, they started moving into some of the white neighborhoods. It was integration, and but still, for the most part, teachers taught where they were comfortable with the Black schools. Now, when they start moving across town, it was hard to drive back over there, and that's kind of why they started teaching. But for the most part, I never had a white teacher till I was in high school.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I experienced that too because my elementary years, all African American teachers.
Hmm.
Something happened different though in middle school because this
Okay.
is when Dallas ISD started this program called it was called an M&M Minority to Majority Transfer. I don't know if you're familiar,
Right. Right.
but so what they would do is they would take a handful of African American children. If your
Hmm.
parents signed you up, then they would bus you over to a
Right.
predominantly white school
Integration.
and
Yes.
integration. So my parents thought, well, let's try this. She's a smart girl. She wants to, broaden her horizons. Let's see if this is going to work. So I was bused from Dallas to
Oh, wow.
Sigleville Middle School. Did that 1 year, and it was. I, yeah, I'm not even trying to find the words. That was the worst experience of my life
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm coming from this nurturing, we care about you, we got you environment to you're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's
you know
literally what
what?
happened.
And that's because we're going to be giving tidbits here so parents kind of keep up. I feel, and it's nothing to be racist or anything, but we're not there yet. The world is not there yet. So when you put your children in a school, a lot of times Black people want to put their kids in an all white nursery, all white preschool, because they feel that white is better. And they may have the better facilities and may looking better, but you need a mama who's going to help to nurture you. So would you say that the integration, and is that what you're saying? Integration was not really the best thing for you at that time?
It wasn't the best thing for me because, we got to think about this and you think about, I'm an educator, so I always think of things of human development.
Right.
When you're in middle school, that is the most pivotal part of your life because you're really trying to figure out who you are.
Who you are. Right.
And I've seen a lot of students, their self-esteem gets really, really damaged at that
In middle
point
school.
in
That's
middle
right.
school. Your body's changing, your voice is changing, your mind is changing, and you're trying to wrap your mind around who am I?
Who am I?
And so here I am in the seventh grade, and I'm going to a school where I don't feel like I fit. I don't
Yeah.
belong. Uh,
Right.
I look different. They look different. They're looking at me. I'm looking at them. The nurturing part, and I'm not saying
Mhm.
all of it, because some, it's good people everywhere. There are good people
Right.
everywhere.
Hmm.
But the feel, the environment was different. Um,
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to figure out a lot on my own, and I felt like instead of encouraging me to do certain things, it was like, oh, no, 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 you don't do that. That's
Yeah. It's
mm-mm.
discouraging. And you're so right, because as an elementary school counselor, for many years, I nurtured those kids and I helped them to accept one another and to love one another and to be treated equitably. But when they go to middle school, and I found this out with my own children because we grew up out here in the white community, and my kids, all their friends were white. Me and me, I had one black, but the only friends they had black were at the church. But in the neighborhood, Little League and all this, so they were all white. Sleepovers, birthday parties, all white. And so when my kids got in middle school, the white kids that they've known since pre-K, all of a sudden they started separating. And I don't know if you found that out, but I found out that in middle school, the geeks get together, the weird ones that get together, the jocks get together. Everybody has their own clique,
Right.
and it's so hard for you to fit in. They got that block where you don't fit in with this one.
Mhm.
So can you imagine that being in every junior high school, and the fact that you're black?
Right.
So you got a double thing
Right.
there. Uh-huh.
And coupled with the fact that you think about Oak Cliff in Singleville, that's a distance.
Yes, it is.
So I'm getting up at 5 o'clock
Early,
in the morning. I'm
right,
walking to a bus stop that is about a mile and a half from my house.
right,
And then I'm having the bus transport me to Singleville, going to school feeling like I don't belong there, and
right.
then so I'm gone for 12 hours every day.
Yeah, because you don't get back till nighttime. Then you got homework and chores, and the quality time in your community,
Right.
that's gone. You don't
Yeah.
get to play outside with the other kids in your community. So
Right. So,
yeah,
and then
that's
they're wondering, the other kids in my community, hey, where are you? We're here. So now you're having that conversation and you're
yeah,
feeling awkward.
right. You
Uh,
do. And you
so,
you have to fit in with the black kids too. And they're like, but we don't know you like that. So it's a void. That's
right,
a very good point.
right. And so but I understand why I went there now.
Yes.
Because when
Okay.
I transferred back to the school in my community, it gave me a sense of focus.
Okay.
It's like I've been over there. I'm back here. I'm gonna get it done so I can move on. And
Right.
it really helped me. And I was, to me, I was pretty much a good student, but I think that really did something to me to help me realize, you know what?
Yeah.
We got to get busy.
Right.
African American people, we
Yeah.
got to get busy.
We got to get busy. Oh, wow. So, what about your parents at that time? Were they both working parents, or were you with grandparents, or who else in the community, in the church? What else molded you and helped you during that season?
Well, my parents were both they were very, very hard workers. My work ethic, I will attribute that to them because all I know is work.
They worked
They
hard,
just
didn't
worked
they?
hard. They were just hard workers. They told nobody owes you anything. You got to work for it.
Right.
So that's how we were raised. And I prefaced it before was saying that we spent a lot of time with grandma, my grandmother, my grandfather. They lived on a large, large, beautiful farm out in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Is where we would meet up every summer. A lot of land, a lot of animals,
Uh-huh.
and everything that we needed pretty much was on that farm.
Yep.
We went to the store. It was just a couple things to pick up, some flour, some sugar, but it was most of the stuff we needed was right there.
Exactly.
And we learned the value of um, working hard, making your own
Mm-hmm.
family, uh,
Family, yes.
that we all helped grandmother. It wasn't just she was in there, we were in there with her.
Right.
Um, and it was love. It was, if you were out
Real
there helping
love.
her pick pecans, you were doing it, and she was singing to you and talking to you and giving you those life lessons that you didn't even know that were life
Mhm.
lessons, and talk. So that's, even though it was work, we didn't even know it was work.
Right, right. And that's what I think I miss a lot about the ages today. They don't spend time just working with or talking with or imparting into their my granddaughters were over here helping me do some stuff, but you bet no, we were working, but I was imparting some things. I was listening and hearing. So that wisdom that you get from, I think a lot of people, number one, the parents today are different from the parents that we had, grandparents. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
But I think we need to see ourselves as people. Once you get to be a parent and a grandparent, you need to understand that your job is not just to give them a Christmas gift or to hug them or dance with them and act silly with them. You are to impart some nuggets, some wisdom. So, being a counselor, let's kind of switch a minute here, just kind of not out of the total subject, but dropping the kids off. Mostly all of the people, when they had that great migration, they would take those kids back home in the summer because number one, they couldn't afford daycare.
Hmm.
Number two, they didn't want to be at home by themselves getting in trouble. So they took them back to the foundational place where they got their foundation, to the farm, to the home. But nowadays, grandparents and grandmothers are still working. And so, what's the difference in the grandparents and parents you see that you work with now in your school and the ones we had?
And it's interesting you say that, because I think about my grandmother, who did not have a complete formal education. My grandfather, he didn't as well. But the wisdom that they carried is unconscionable, how much wisdom they
Yes,
imparted on us, and the life lessons. And they taught us things that, you know, something that's going to help you for the rest of your life. Things that no matter what you're dealing with, you always go back to. I remember when grandma said, fast forwarding to now, a lot of our grandmothers are very, and not all, I'm just saying a good portion, because I deal with so many parents and grandparents coming in to school, into the schools. And they're probably a little more educated, a little more, sophisticated, but that wisdom, that
mhm.
grandmotherly feel is different.
Right, right.
It's more of, I'm trying to be not a grandma. I'm trying to be something different than a grandma. I don't want to, I don't want to
Don't
feel
call
like
me
grandma.
grandmother.
Call
Yeah,
me. Then they got these new names,
yeah, all these new
Gluma and
names.
and Glamour. And, it's like, I don't, call me everything but that. I want to
Yeah.
be fabulous. I don't want to be that. I want to be this.
I
I
want to be
don't,
like you. Let's see, what kind of dress you wearing? Let's go buy dresses alike
yeah.
and let's go hang out the club together. I think that, and not bashing anybody, but I think that the key to it is the parents have always had a situation where they were trying to find themselves and work, still have fun because that's that transitional period. But my thing is the grandparents. The grandparents are settled, they've lived their lives, and they have that wisdom. They should have that they should be cognizant of the fact that my job is to impart back to my grandchildren, even though it should be the parents' job to do that. A lot of these parents are still trying to find themselves. It's what I see. I mean, some of the things I
Right.
see, I saw like the other day, I saw on TikTok, this grandmother was on the floor trying to twerk and she had on this tight dress and she was at a club and somebody in the background was taking a video and they said, somebody come get your auntie off this floor. What what is she doing on this floor? take
Mhm.
her home. Oh, and she drop it down. You're like, oh Lord, somebody come get grandma. Come get her.
Yeah, yeah. And and the thing is, our grandmothers and our aunties used to truly train us and teach us,
Yes.
sweetheart, go iron that dress, go put
Yeah.
those stockings on. Don't leave out like that. Fix
Yeah.
your hair, do this. And it wasn't to criticize, it was to really teach you. This is what a
And
young
teach.
lady should look like. This is how you should sit. This is how you should act. They
Right.
really prepared you for your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of the women, I think that we went through, we'll go through a little faster here, but I'm trying to figure out what happened. And I think everything's changed. But I think that over the years, not having that foundation like we had with the Black teachers who would whoop our butts and make us sit down somewhere, pull that dress down. No, you're not coming here like this. I think that foundation was not gotten because we're in a thing now. We moved to one where the teachers can't spank, they can't tell you what's right and wrong. The parents can't spank, and I'm saying spank, but the parents can't whoop. The parents can't tell you what to do. So, no, who has control? The children are in control of themselves. And I think we have people like that who have now become parents and they're trying to live out that childhood thing and grow up because they missed it. So now eventually they become grandparents. When do they grow up? And I'm wondering if that's what the issue is. They still want to be young and look young and act young. And it's
Right,
okay to look young. I mean, I put on lipstick. I don't want to look older
right.
than what I am, but I don't
Mhm.
want to look 16.
And the I remember my grandmother said something years ago and it just resonated with me. She said, how do people know? She talked about these new age parents and new age grandparents. She said, how do people know who's who?
I know. And the grandparents are loving like they think I'm the mama.
Yeah,
No, that's not. And it looks that's okay. But when you're at a club and trying to, you got on the same dress, she got on the same earrings, which one of us looked the youngest? That's not cute.
no, no.
That's not cute. Well,
This,
let's move on and talk about some other things that shaped your life. Because okay, we're trying to figure out what were the impactful things that happened to you that helped you stay focused, that led you to hindsight seeing this was happening, but it was not good to me. And I want you to talk about too, as we go through adulthood, how we become adults and everything does not happen that's positive, but how God is working all things together for good. Tragedies or any kind of disappointments that you have, because this is for the middle age. Because when you get out of high school, out of your mom's house, then the real world hits you, and you still having real adults things happen. And I know you went through some infertility things. That was, how did that shape you, and how did you keep your focus on moving forward and not just giving up because life is not fair?
well, they say life is always life, and that's what that's what it's doing.
Right.
I'm gonna just kind of walk through my high school years and college, and then we'll kind of, the
Okay.
situation with the marriage. After I left that middle school, of course, I went back to my community, my home middle school, really thrived, did well, and went to high school. And I decided to go to a high school, a magnet high school, because
Okay.
at that point, and I had the kind of parents who, this is why you need parents. You need good parents that, what do you want to do? What are your goals? How are you going to get there? What are you doing? Have you researched? That was always the conversation at our dinner table.
Right.
And they said, in our home, I was the oldest child.
Hmm.
So the expectation is you got to be an example to your siblings.
Right.
And so that was always, and that was when we sat down and had dinner at our table. Every Sunday we sat down at our dinner table, and that was the conversation. This is what we expect of you. What are you going to do? What are your plans? What are your goals?
Well, let me pivot there for a minute because you said something so major. We sat down at the dinner table. Most
Mhm.
people eat on the go. They grab a burger. They eat standing up. They eat in the den, upstairs, the playroom, wherever. And then most Black families are not two-parent families. Can you speak anything from a counsel standpoint, from your experience, to how do single parents do what your parents did, and they get home late and sometimes they don't sit at the table?
You know, I want to applaud single parents because I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
Most of the ones that I have been in contact with as in my job, like you said, they're working 2 or 3 jobs. They're
do a
trying to
good
make
job.
sure kids are well taken care of. Some of
And
them
they're
have help.
tired when they
Yeah,
get
they're
home.
tired. Some of them have help, some of them don't, but they're making it happen. And
Yeah,
that's what I really, really emphasize with children when I'm talking to them is that you need to help mom because mom is doing the best she can.
right.
And she's wanting to make sure that you have a great life. I am so blessed that I had the opportunity to be in a two-parent home.
Yeah,
Um, my mom and dad, I mean, I can't speak enough about my parents were phenomenal.
right, right,
Um, my dad was military background. My dad fought in Vietnam. Um, he was you talk about he's a strong man.
right.
And my mom, when I look at the definition of what a woman and how a man should function in a relationship, they're the
You got
definition
that.
for me.
So
My,
you got the best of the best of the best. I
yes.
guess I can let me jump in here for single moms because I grew up in a home with a single mom, and with a father who was not in my life, and with her being divorced many times and so forth. So I grew up in that kind of family home. So let me tell you what my mom did, and I think this will be something that we be good for the single moms. The thing that my mom did, she had us involved in church. And so there were church leaders there. I was on the Ursha board, who was like a mother to me. You know, the Sunday school lady was like another mother. BYPU, all of these people could speak into your life and help. And then we had a couple of neighbors, even though we lived in the project, that we called nosy neighbors, but they helped to make sure we were not letting people in the house or out while she was at working 2 or 3 jobs. So I would say, just jumping in here, that would be something. Single mothers, but my mother still talked to us on the way to church. And her talking was sometimes in a fussing mood, like on Saturday. Y'all gonna get here and get this up plate. Y'all not gonna grow up like this. And yada, yada, yada. So it was kind of a fussing, but she was still teaching and training. So, but a lot of it I got from there. Now, here's where I'm going with you.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest amount of wisdom that I got from and direction on where to go and channel my goals and plans from life came from my counselor. I had teachers, Black teachers, who were saying, she's different or she can do that. Uh, but the counselors called me in and said, my scores or whatever. What do you want to do? We talk about in the classroom. And I had some good counselors, Black counselors, who called me in and say, let me help you fill out the SAT. Let me help you fill out this. I didn't know what all that stuff was. This paperwork you got to fill out. My counselor, my high school counselor filled it out for me. So that's the importance of who you are. Your mother did it for you. You didn't have to do it. But tell us about, well, we have a little short time to go, so we got to kind of hurry it up. But that's what I would say for the single mothers. You have any other advice for single mothers?
Um, one of the things that I always encourage with students is that it takes a village to raise kids, to raise students, to raise
Right.
children.
Yes.
Get them involved, get aunts, uncles.
Right. My aunts and uncles were involved too. You're right.
That's what at church.
Uh-huh.
I can't speak enough. We don't even have time for me to talk about the influence of the
Church.
impact of church
Yeah.
because that's what really helped me to focus.
Yeah.
When everything else was going around me, girls getting pregnant, girls leaving home, I'm getting out of my mama's house, I'm doing this, I'm getting out of here. It was the Lord. It was thinking back on the expectation of my parents and those aunts and uncles in my ear, that village
Right.
that
That
kept me
village.
focused. The
Yeah.
world was crumbling down, but I was laser beam focused
Right.
because I didn't want to let grandma down. I didn't want to let
Yeah.
grandpa, I didn't want to let mom and daddy, my church, I didn't want to let them down.
So what you're saying there is have high expectations for your kids. Talk to them, pray with them, and create. If you can't find a man to be your husband, find your village. And
Right.
even if you got a man, you still need a village. And
Mhm.
they're there. You go to church and you ask da 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 da. So can you help me da da da? Godparents. And one of the things I thought about too when you were talking, my mom would take us to the country every summer. Now we didn't stay the whole summer; we stayed 2 weeks. But those 2 weeks on a farm, and my grandfather was the only adult in the house. But he raised those boys. Don't touch those girls. It's the girls' room, bar room. If you get caught in here, I'm gonna kill you. He
Mhm.
put the fear of God in them to not. He taught them how to respect us because a lot of times people get abused sexually on by leaving your kids in the country with
Right.
uncles and cousins who are not
Right.
mature.
Hmm.
So I would say definitely leave them with the grandparents
Yes.
sometimes. And they can learn a lot just by being in the midst of those grandparents and definitely at church.
Right. And that's what my grandmother, she had all of us, all the cousins,
Uh-huh.
all of the grandchildren. It was about at least, you know, it was 9 or 10 of us there.
Yeah.
And we all share, and you learn the importance of sharing a community and family in that
Yes.
community. We all slept in the same bed. We all used the same
Oh my
bath
God.
water.
Yes. Same dipper. We have one dipper we go and dip water out of. And nowadays we wouldn't think about that. But the
Hmm.
other thing we learned too, we learned to appreciate what was done for us. Grandmama, grandpa, whoever it was fixing breakfast. You didn't get in there to, oh, I don't eat eggs. I don't eat what I don't like that. You got any strawberry jelly? Whatever was put on that table, you ate it and you were
Right.
thankful for it.
Yeah.
So, and then when they all went out to the field to work, we all went out there. The girls really didn't work, but we had to go. We couldn't stay up in the house, and there was no TV. Now, I'm not saying we need to go back to that, but I'm saying that our kids have too much TV, and the TV is training your children.
Right.
Okay? So they're training them how to be a woman. If you're not doing it, somebody's doing it.
Hmm.
And so you're going to have their friends training them, and you're going to have the TV. And I can't tell you that the TV is something I think we need to fast from with these kids.
I agree. I believe between that and social media, they
Oh,
need
the
to
internet.
purge.
Oh my
They
God.
need to fast from all of that.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the message I give to parents all the time is that, and I know I have my own son and they love the internet, they love social media, but a lot of the things that your children are dealing with, even talking about self-esteem,
right.
social media is making your child feel like they're not enough.
Exactly. I was shocked. They were saying so many kids that commit suicide because of they don't have friends or likes, or they put something up and nobody responded.
Hmm.
And so has 50 or 1,000, and I have none.
Right.
So yeah,
So yeah,
I think
we have
it's
to we
special.
have
What
to
age
get
do you think what age do you think that the kids are responsible enough to be on social media?
you said when?
Yeah, what age do you think?
Um, that depends on that child's maturity and ability to be able to navigate through all of it. I think every child is different. Um, there's some kids who can handle it at 15 or 16.
That's what
Um,
Tish was saying in the comments. She thinks 16.
yeah, some
But I
kids,
think my point was definitely elementary school, no.
yeah,
And a middle school, I think they're 16, they're in high school. So middle school, the same thing. I don't think that's such a crazy piece of their lives that you
yeah.
definitely don't want
But
them to be on
you'd
there and
be
do that middle
surprised to
school.
learn that 90%, I read a statistic the other day, it says 90% of kids, students, receive cell phones in the fifth grade.
Yeah, I know.
So that's where it starts.
Yeah. If you give them that cell phone, and a lot of people say, well, I'm giving it to them for protection or whatever. They do have a phone that has three numbers on it. It's
Hmm.
got mom and dad's, the emergency numbers on it. So that if there is an emergency, you can call me, but you cannot text, you cannot Snapchat, you cannot, what are those other things? I mean, I
Oh
said
yeah, Instagram and all the other.
Instagram, all that stuff. No.
Yeah.
And I don't think they should be doing it at all. Like Tish said, to their in high school. And
And
even then, you
yeah,
got
and
to
even that's
monitor
why I
it.
said sometimes it depends on just the age. I mean, of course, elementary is way too young.
Yeah.
Middle school may be too young. So it just really depends. I mean, I've dealt with students that are, they're in high school now and they're 17, 18, and they're just getting into social media.
Yeah, yeah. I think
So,
that's a good age. I think 16 is good.
yeah.
I think that will be something for them to look for. It's like they have nothing to look for. When
Mhm.
we were young, we looked forward to our sweet 16th birthday. And
Yeah.
on that birthday, now we can do this. But now they don't have anything to look for. They got everything.
They have
So
everything.
nothing is enough. And I think that's something that we teach our kids, this
Mhm.
entitlement. I don't want to get on this too much because I'm gonna have to have a whole show on that. Our kids are entitled.
Mhm.
We teach them to be entitled. So when they grow up and they expect everything from us and they are not appreciative, you want to wonder why. Because you've given them everything. They haven't had to work for it. They're not respectful. They don't have to earn it. They feel like just because I'm your child, I'm entitled to have
Yeah.
whatever the gift is for Christmas.
Yeah. And the more they're around that with their friends, the more they put you on a guilt trip for
Right,
not
right,
being, my friend is getting. So that's kind of the world that we live in. But again, that's why children really need that village to
right.
help them to recalibrate and say, listen, this is the way it really is.
Right. So hindsight, looking back over your life of where you are now, assistant principal, and that's such a very important part. And even being a black assistant principal, because sometimes kids go through school, they don't have a black counselor, they don't have a black, and I'm saying this not as a racist thing, but it is important that people see, that children see people like them, that that gives them self-esteem, that gives them value. That's the reason why I sent Pastor Johnny, I sent him to an all-black college because
Mhm.
he's a man and I know what this world's like, and he needed to be where people could nurture him rather than throwing him into an all-white traditional where he was not going to be one little fish in the sea,
Mhm.
and more than likely he was not going to get the nurturing or the support and would run into a lot of racism in college. So tell me, give us some closing remarks here. What do you want to
Well,
share?
I thank God that He has put me in this position to have this impact on particularly my students that look like me, my African American students. I love all students.
Yes,
I look out and I work hard for all students, but
me
I
too.
have a love and a major interest in making sure that my African American, my Black and brown babies get what they need because I know I've been down that road
Right,
of feeling rejected like I didn't belong. And there,
right,
no one's gonna ever come in my office and never feel like they don't belong.
exactly.
They're not gonna feel, and everything that I've dealt with in my life has put me in that position, has shaped me. Even the infertility, dealing with that for 9 years, it's feeling like, God, why me? Why in the world am I dealing with this? When I'm sitting there looking at people have 7, 8, 9, 10 children they don't even want.
Mm,
But all of that was done to shape me into this spirit that God has given me, that you're going to be a parent, not just, and Michael's my natural child, but you're going to be a parent to so many
so
students.
many students, yes.
And you're going to be like a mama, and I have, to so many girls, to so many students. You're
Mhm.
going to be that for them. The thing that void, that piece that's missing, you're going to connect it. And I thank God that He has put me in that position.
Yes.
I'm truly thankful for that.
Right. And he literally put you there for such a time as this. That's one of my favorite things I always say. It's for such a time as this. May not mean you'll always be there,
Mhm.
but he is preparing you for your next. And even in your next, he can give you some other things of working with kids that age in another group. There's so many things that God wants you to use your gift for the kingdom. So it's not just in the community, it's for the kingdom in the church. And so I know that tell me a little bit about how important it is of having your son in the church, and how everybody, I know everybody at some point in their life did not like their parents. Okay, raise
Mhm.
your hand. I was at some point I was like, oh, she says one more thing to me, I'm gonna walk out of this house, I'm gonna run away. And I tried to run away one night. I got there, it was real dark, and I kind of sit on the back patio for a little while. And I said, let me go on back because this is not really what I wanted to do,
Right.
accomplish. But so,
You-
what do you, as a parent, now speak as a parent, what help have you received? Because you are giving a lot out to other people's kids, but what happens when Satan comes for your kid and your kid doesn't like you or doesn't want to listen to you, which is typical for
mhm.
most middle school and high school kids.
And Satan knows how to work. He works when he can't get us, he goes through our children.
Right,
And one of the things that my husband and I, Mike and I always say, we've given and poured ourselves into so many children over the course of our careers. And we always say, but we can't stop with ours. We
yeah,
have to pour, because
yes,
that happens. You pour a lot into everybody else's children and you forget
right,
about your own.
right,
And so I always make it a point to, no matter how hard I'm working, what I have going on in my life, my son is gonna, if he calls me, I'm gonna answer this phone.
right,
If he needs me, I'm there. When I get home, I don't just crash and go to bed and clock up and not talk to him.
right,
My priority is making sure mom is there for them, but I'm here for you too. I'm here for you,
exactly,
number one. So there is not a time that he needs something and I'm not there for him. Uh,
right.
so that's the thing that we want to be able
That's
to impart to
important.
him. The
Yeah.
other part of that is, I remember my dad called me a few years ago and he said, I really thank you for taking your son to church. And I
Mm,
kind of thought, well, that's a strange call. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. He said,
right.
no, no, no. He said, even when they don't want to go, even when if they don't want it, you still, I said, of course.
Yeah.
That was a conversation I had with mine a long time ago, because you got to remember, a lot of times our children's friends may not go to church.
Yes.
And so the pull is, why do I have to go?
Exactly.
Well, the theme in my house, and I mean this in love, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord.
That's right. Yeah.
So you may not like it. And my hope and prayer is that when you leave here, you'll continue. But I
Right.
know this, if I teach you and train you, you'll come back.
Exactly. You'll come back to it. And I think that's very, very key that people know how important church has been. My kids all were in church, whether they wanted to or not, they were going. Nobody stayed at home in my house. But I think that they may not have liked, and they just didn't go to church. They had to be involved. You had to be in that choir. You know, where do you want to work? You're going to serve. So we're teaching them to serve. And as they get older, they will come back and they will continue to serve. But if they are giving all of their skills and talents to the world and you don't say anything and you are the trainer, God's going to hold you accountable. I call it child abuse.
Mhm.
If you're not training your child the way God wants you to train and bringing them up in the church, then that's child abuse. You are the parent, you are the adult. So, one of the things that I used to do too, because I would do the same thing, I worked so hard as a teacher. Sometimes I wouldn't get home to dark because as a kindergarten, you got to change out the classroom, get the stuff ready because these are babies. And so, what I would do many times is my kids would be in their room with the music going, the door closed. I bust the door and I say, hey, and I jump in their bed. Come on, get out of our bed. This is my bed. I bought this bed. What y'all doing? What happened to school today? And it didn't take long, but I'm busting through the door and jumping in the bed. Number one, they came in doing stuff secretly behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that said, well, they would not keep the door open. So what she did, she took the door off the hinges. Now you don't have no door. Okay. This is a privilege to have a door in my house. So the same thing with my kids. I would search, look through their things to see what's in their closets or whatever. And so those are things that are not being nosy and rude. It's being loving. Because if they know that you're going to search their room, if they know you're going to bust in a minute, they're not going to have certain things going on in that room.
Right.
Because whatever goes up under your roof, you are responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah.
So, and I don't know how much time we have left. Sister Tish, how much time do we have left? Because I want to close out with a couple of things. So we got 0 minutes left. Okay. Well, listen, uh, Sister Tracy, I want to thank God for you. I thank God for closing that door so you'd have to go to that school and learn what it's like to be not wanted or accepted or whatever. And so now you have a school and an office where you can open your doors and make sure every child is accepted, every child has a plan, and you're there to support them and encourage them all along the way. So thank you for letting God use you, and thank you for sharing your life with us today.
Amen. I'm so glad I had a chance to do that. And like I said, this journey, my mom told me this, and I want to end with this. My mom told me this years ago, and I hold on dear to a lot of things that she told me. She said, "Your life, God did not put you here for you. He
Ah,
put you here for other people." And
brother.
I truly believe that. The
Yeah,
the this journey that I've taken in this life has helped me in this position I have right now,
yeah.
be able to help all those students who don't feel like they belong, all
Wow.
those kids that look like me that wonder what's going to happen with my life. Now I understand why I went through those things.
Wow, wow. Well, that's enough right there. That's a good closure. So just know that everything that you're going through is for a reason and for a season. And so God is taking you to your next for such a time as this. So listen, that's all we have for now. We'll see you next week with another wonderful guest who's going to impart some nuggets into your life. So stay tuned next Sunday at 3 for Tea with Lady O. Bye-bye for now.